Allah. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, and Barakatah Yahweh Shai, and the water, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, Kayaha Rakakodash. That is the Holy Spirit which moves me, compels me to do these lessons. So this is another volume of Sunset Spiritual Speaking. I want to speak about how nobody's going to bemoan our people in these last days, and that's pursuant to the book of Jeremiah, the 15th chapter. All right, because the people, these other nations, they're pretty much normalized to not have sympathy or empathy for our people, and it's getting stirred up more and more as I was going into, I believe it was yesterday when I was in Las Vegas. You have certain pages that are dedicated to the degeneracy of our people, and that helps to stir up more and more hatred towards our people, to the point where, as we see more and more genocides similar to the genocides that are taking place in Palestine happen here, ain't nobody gonna care. All right, so this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15, verse 5. For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Or who shall bemoan thee? Or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest? That's right. So ain't nobody gonna bemoan, ask how we're doing. Oh my God, well, what can we do to help? It's gonna be a cold spirit on these devils, to come against our people. Let me read this again. This is the book of Jeremiah 15, verse 5. For who shall pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Or who shall bemoan thee? That's right. Ain't nobody gonna bemoan our people in these last days. Or who shall bemoan thee? Or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest? That's right. On the contrary, you're gonna have these heathens, starting with Esau/Edom, mocking our people, and our people, they don't even see it coming. All right, despite the fact that we're telling them what's gonna come to pass. All right, this is the book of Lamentations, chapter 2, verse 15. All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? Right. And that's how these nations for the longest have looked at our people. Oh, this is the perfection of beauty. You know what's the equivalent of that? When these devils, they come on the comment board and they say we was kings. That's really the equivalent of what I'm reading here in in Lamentation, the second chapter. Because in their mind, okay, you were these people, you were these people, you were these people, you're the best people on earth, but look at you now. And why are our people in this low state? Because of our own transgression, which has brought these curses upon us. Yet when you examine culturally, all these other nations, they pertain to the nation of Israel, because it's in the spirit for us to be above all nations, pursuant to the book of Exodus, the 19th chapter, Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. But we're temporarily in this low state. So let me read this again. All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? Oh yeah, we was king. Y'all was kings, right? All thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, we have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day that we look for. We have found. We have seen it. That's right, man. So that's going to be the mentality, the mindset in these last days, in this time of Jacob's trouble. You're going to have these other nations really cheering it on. And just like they're cheering on what's going on to those Ishmaelites. And when you go on a Trump supporters page, you look at the comments, and you really see how demonic Esau/Edom is. I mean, this, and I was discussing that with the brother earlier. We went and we got breakfast. And these devils, they're just out with it. Everything is coming to light. Oh, let me grab that real quick. In the book of Mark, the 4th chapter. I mean, they're not concealing their hatred anymore. All right, so it's gonna get real bad out here. Hey, and you see the Trump administration, they don't care about law, legal precedents. They're doing whatever the hell they want to do. And what does it say in the book of Sirach? As the ruler of the people is, so are his as the ruler of the king is. As the ruler is, so are his officers. So are the other people. All right. This is the book of Mark 4, verse 22. For there is nothing hid which shall not be manifested, neither was anything kept secret, but that it should come abroad. That's right. So let me grab this now in the book of Sirach. Hey, because you got a real cavalier, really like an Andrew Jackson, patriot, renegade spirit on these Edomites. They really don't care about nothing but pushing through their agenda. And it starts with the leadership. Let me go ahead and grab that. And so that's how this is going. This person talking about you're brainwashed. You're right. My brain was filthy and now it's clean. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hide this person. Yeah, because how are you supposed to respond to somebody like that? This person isn't asking a question. They're not wanting to have any type of discourse. And like me and the brother were talking about, and in particular these Edomites, you can't really take them seriously. You can't take them intellectually. You can't take them intellectually serious. All right, because what are they gonna say? You have a low IQ. You have a undeveloped frontal cortex, things like that. They're not going to actually deal with reality. They're not going to actually deal with anything of substance. You see? So this is the book of Sirach, chapter 10. Yeah, man, it's a bunch of weirdos coming on here. Yeah, just a bunch of reprobates, right? But this is the book of Sirach, chapter 10, verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered, right? And this government is totally out of order, which is why we're still in a shutdown. Ain't too many people really speaking about that right now, but we're actually in a government shutdown because this government is not well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. That's right. So you see the ruler of Babylon the Great, because America is really one big city. Now you might say, well, no, this is a country. Well, we're referred to as American citizens, going back to us being subjects of America, which is considered a country, but it's really one big city. Again, hence us being known as citizens. All right. So as the ruler of let me read this one more time. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. That's right. So Trump, he's real cavalier. He shoot first, ask questions later, like this whole National Guard deployment. Legally, he's not supposed to have the National Guard troops from other states dispatched to Portland. It just got ruled, but he gonna do it anyways. So you got these flag waving patriots. In their mind, the means justify the ends. I'm sorry, the ends, Salaki. The ends justify the means. So they're in a spirit of just, again, shooting first, asking questions later, doing whatever the hell they want. So it's going to get real chaotic out here as a result of that mindset. So as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. That's right. And that spells trouble for you tribes. All right, because he's a damn devil, and he's made it really acceptable to be a devil. And like I saw this dude, Jake Shields, I believe he's actually from San Francisco. He an MMA fighter, and one of these guys that be grifting, one of them black conservatives. You got the Hodge twins. The dude in particular is Brandon Tatum. Some of you brothers that that follow social media, you familiar with that guy? You got Dom Lucre. You got a lot of Candace Owens, right? These are quote unquote black conservatives. They was pushing that Blexit thing a few years back, meaning so-called black people to exit the Democratic Party. Hey, which whether you a Democrat or a Republican, if you partake in this political system, something's wrong with you. You got demons on you. But anyways, he was highlighting Jake Shields and how he said, hey, this was like a month ago. He said, I say nigger like all the time. And then the dude tried to call him out on it. He said, hey, racism isn't a big deal anymore. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull it up, because this is really the spirit of these Edomites right now. They're just being who they really are. They don't care. Even here in Reno, it's a big controversy. Yeah, it's a big controversy because this guy, Officer Tatum, it's a big controversy because near the university, you got these white supremacist people that recruiting. They're trying to recruit these young Edomites, because a young Edomite, when he looks around, he doesn't really see any place for himself here on the earth. All right, his woman is getting taken by Jacob. All right, he's losing his jobs left and right. All right, he's in school. He might be in school for software engineering or finance. That ain't yielding no fruit. All right, he sees so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans all around him. Culturally, he's irrelevant. Like I said, intellectually, he's becoming irrelevant. Hey, like it says in the book of Obadiah, the Heavenly Father has made Esau small among the heathen and greatly despised. So this devil, he feels cornered. So you got these quote unquote white supremacists, they're taking advantage of that. So even here, like I said, near the university, it's a big thing because you seeing these little signs pop up all over the place. Because these devils, that's the spirit that they're in. Hey, look, hey, we're proud to be white. We don't care. There's one matter of fact. Let me see if I got it. There's one page on IG, not on IG, on X said you either be racist or you die. So they're looking at it like, hey, we have to be racist. We have to be a bunch of damn devils in order to survive. Hey, because Esau cannot compete with Jacob. So and that's why historically there'd be all these discriminatory laws to enforce quote unquote white supremacy. And so they're really just coming out with that. Like, hey, look, man, we gotta be racist. Hey, up here, they're calling it a mud flood, meaning it's an influx of so-called black people. Hey, which me and the brother just waiting to get called to our table. Man, I saw a lot of Judites. I remember when I first moved up here, I could go a day or two without seeing a so-called black person. You'll see Issachar, you'll see Gad to a lesser extent, but for the most part, you will see Esau, you'll see a few Filipinos, but now it's an influx of so-called black people coming up here, and not just Judah. You got Benjamin, you got Benjamite restaurants and sprung up. You got a large influx of Levi, so-called Haitians, because they've been resettled here under the status that they've procured, the refugee status. So this is one of the main places where they've been settled. So Esau sees this, and he losing his mind. He like, wait a second, what happened? Hey, even when I was at the altar, this is about what 3 weeks ago, a month ago, somebody said, well, wow, you got blacks up in Reno. Like, what the hell's going on? Hey, because this place isn't known for having Judites up here, and this is known as the Mississippi. They call this the Mississippi of the West. And what's the implication, the indication that this place is very, very racist. But look, Brandon Tatum, he said, is this you at Jake Shields? Looks pretty racist to me. He said, I say nigger all the time, you dumb Jew. So listen to this response, right? This is what Jake Shields says. Nobody cares about racism anymore, Tatum. And I treat people the same regardless of race. And you are just a coon, is which I call you a coon. I do think some races have more shitty people than others, but I'm not going to treat anyone bad because of race, right? So he says nobody cares about racism anymore. So that's the narrative that they're putting forth. There's no more racism. All right, you got Obama, you got food stamps, you got welfare. We've been on an even playing field. That's why you had those devils, these Charlie Kirk wannabes. They pulled up on, I want to say Tennessee State, yeah, that HBCU, and they got pushed up out of there. And what were they wanting to debate about? DEI. They wanted to say that, well, look, you have the same opportunities as me. There's no more racism. So they're pushing that spirit out so that they can be justified when you get mowed down. Well, look, he didn't get in prison. This didn't happen to him because he was a so-called black person, a so-called Latino, so-called Native American. He was just a bad guy. All right, he was a criminal. He was so on and so forth. So the stage is being set for the persecution of the tribes, and you see it, man. That's what this propaganda machine is all about. It's really about normalizing hatred towards Jacob. That's what's going on right now. Hey, we're looking to be delivered from the hands of Esau/Edom. Yet we do understand the time that we're in. Hey, even speaking with the brother, he was speaking with a worldly Judite, a Judite that's a part of this world. And he said that he was preparing. He's getting strapped up, going to the gun range, getting provisions, because you got a lot of our people, they already know what time it is, man. They can see the writing on the wall, and more so than anybody, we can. I mean, it's real clear, it's real evident what's about to go down here in Babylon the Great. See, that's the spirit. Look, we was king. See, that's Lamentations. See, look, that's the modern equivalent of Lamentation, the second chapter. Hey, but that's all right. So this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 5. The Wadi Haba Shimei Shah. This is the book of Jeremiah 30, verse 5. For thus saith Adonai Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace, right? And that's what you beginning to hear out of the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American community, a concerned voice, because this devil, he really doesn't care. He don't care. He don't care if it's lawful. He don't care if it's moral. They're all about pushing their agenda. Irrelevant are your feelings. And that's what our people are not used to. See, our people have been not catered to, but our people have been, what's the word I'm looking for? They've been appeased. See, Esau's been appeasing our people. Our people have been pointing out certain things, and then, a devil will get fired, or he'll get ostracized for being a devil. But see, that spirit is changing. Now it's to the point where if you criticize one of these devils, now you on the back foot. Whereas before, if you would do something racist, you would get pressed. All right, you'll get expelled from school. Well, now that's happening to Jacob. Let me peep this. Let me go ahead and bring this out. Federal judge in Oregon bans entrance of National Guard troops from other states. But look, Greg Abbott authorized Trump to deploy Texas Guard to other states to protect federal officials. So you see, there's a division. Hold on 1 second. Right, listen to this.
Look at that. Portland is burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists. All you have to do is look at the television, turn on your television, read your newspapers. It's burning to the ground. The governor, the mayor, the politicians are petrified for their lives. And you have a judge like that, that judge ought to be ashamed of himself.
And what judge is this? This is the judge that ruled that the national troops shouldn't be in there. But what is he saying? Well, look, Portland's burning down. Hey, which Portland is messed up, but he putting 10s on a 2. He's embellishing it. Why? Because they're seeking to enforce martial law. And you know what? This is what the Salakia. And a lot of people are highlighting this, which is true. This is what the Nazis would do. See, the Nazis, they would go into, this is during the Weimar Republic. They would go into more communist controlled areas and they would lead protests, they would agitate, and they would stir up those people. They would agitate, they would start fights, and then they would blame them. They would say, well, look, it was these people, they're agitating. And that's really what they're doing with the National Guard. Because again, Portland isn't unique to a lot of West Coast cities or cities in general. You got homelessness, you got crime. That's America as a whole. But see, because it's quote unquote left leaning, he's concentrating on it. And this is all part of a bigger agenda. Look, you got armed agents with fire rifles atop roof of ICE facility. That's in Portland and it's in Chicago. So this thing is heating up. It's getting real serious. All right, so going back to Jeremiah 30:5, and that's why the sentiment amongst our people is changing. People are starting to consider what's going on. Yeah, civil war, race wars, all that. All right, Jeremiah 30:5. For thus saith Adonai Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask you now and see whether a man doeth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. That's right, man. Jacob's trouble, and we see the conditioning for this, because these people, they don't care. They don't care if they're considered racist. They're saying, look, you either become racist or you die. Which really, nobody's forcing Esau to be a sodomite to not reproduce kids. Because before they was 30% kill each other. Then World War I, World War II. No so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American forced Esau to do that. But he's blaming us for it. He's blaming us for that. He's blaming his brother Jacob. Bam, Genesis 27:41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. Perfect precept. Because he's diverting all his attention unto us. All right, it could be an Ishmaelite that did something. It's primarily other Edomites, but who are they blaming? They're blaming Jacob. All right, and this is all through the Spirit. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up through the Spirit. I pray that this lesson was not only edifying but also exhorting and comforting. I once again want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, and Barakatha Yahweh Shai, the water, Yahweh Shemah Shai, Kayaha, Rakakwadash, the Holy Spirit which moved me compelled to do this lesson, and Adon Ratazah. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be on those streets again, right back at it like a script addict. You already know. Hey, non-stop on the block till these people drop and we rise to the top of the Mashiach. Until next time, blah, blah, blah. Shalom to the remnant. Shalom to the elect.